phones, Babylons can't crack the code.
Nebraska football. When talking about college football programs with some of the richest history out there, Nebraska is one of them. Over 900 wins all time, 5 national titles, and 46 conference titles in total. Recently, Nebraska's football program has not been where any Nebraska fans been wanting it to be, as they have not made a bowl game since the 2016 season, in which they went 9-4 and lost the Music City Bowl. Ever since then, it's been nothing but disappointment, as their best season since 2016 was 5-7 in 2019. Nebraska football is in a lot of hot discussion right now, as heading into 2022, this was supposed to be the make it or break it year for Scott Frost, and a lot of Nebraska fans were excited for the potential of the team, but it definitely hasn't panned out as of the first 3 games of the 22 season, being 1-2 and coming off a loss 45-42 to Georgia Southern at home, and that was the straw that broke the camel's back for Scott Frost, as he was officially fired after that game, ending his time as the head coach at Nebraska with a 16-31 record, only winning 34% of the games that he coached in. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about the head coaching position for Nebraska and some potential candidates. Before I move on, remember to smash that like button and subscribe if you haven't already. Now let's get into it. The first guy that I'm going to be talking about is the current interim head coach for Nebraska to close out the 22 season, and that is none other than Mickey Joseph. Mickey Joseph has coached a lot of ball in his time as a coach, since he started it at Omaha North High School in 1995. He has a lot of ties to the Nebraska program, as he was a quarterback for Nebraska from 1988 to 1991. This is his first big break as a head coaching opportunity, as he has been a head coach before for Langston in Oklahoma. Joseph may not necessarily be the lead candidate as of right now when talking with the media, but Mickey Joseph is going to have a real shot to be the next head coach for Nebraska, depending on how he does as an interim coach. The players love him, the fans love him because of what he did as a player, as a quarterback way back when for Nebraska, and he's going to have a shot to potentially make this a huge opportunity for himself to maybe turn around Nebraska's 22 season and make them the team that Nebraska fans want them to be. If Mickey Joseph can truly turn this season around for Nebraska, do not be surprised if he's their head coach in 2023. The next potential head coach candidate I'm going to be talking about for Nebraska is head coach for Iowa State, Matt Campbell. Matt Campbell has had a lot of success for Cyclone Nation, as in his time at Iowa State, he has won 44 games, lost 34, with a win percentage of 56% and a bowl record of 2-3. He has built that program up from being a bottom dweller in the Big 12 all the way up to a team that was in the Big 12 title game in 2020 and even made a New Year's Six Bowl appearance in that same season, in which they won the Fiesta Bowl. Iowa State is a program that has a great culture. They develop players very well, and they have guys that aren't necessarily the highest rated players that come in, and they truly make them seem like they're some of the best players in the nation. They play the game with a lot of grit and grind, and you have to point a lot of that towards Matt Campbell's coaching style, as he's a coach that brings a lot of energy and a coach that coaches the game a very good way. And I feel like he could be a great candidate for Nebraska football to really change a culture and to develop players the right way. Moving on to the next potential candidate, it is current Kansas football head coach Lance Leipold. Now, Lance Leipold, in my opinion, is one of the most underrated head coaches in the country. And honestly, if Nebraska hired him, I feel like they're going to have a lot of success. Lance Leipold is a guy that knows that area, and Lance Leipold, pretty much everywhere he's been, he's built a team up, and they've had a lot of success. He's also someone that coaches a game the very good way. He knows how to develop players, he knows how to coach a good game, and more importantly, he knows how to enforce a very good culture while also building teams up to be the best they currently are. A good way to look at this is that at Kansas right now, he's the current head coach. Everyone knows that Kansas football, pretty much over the past decade, has been a laughingstock. They have been one of the worst FBS teams, and now Kansas football has some swag to them. In year 2 of the Leipold era, yes, it's only been 2 games, but they are 2-0, and they're playing football very well, especially on that offensive side of the ball. And that Kansas squad, it really seems like every game they're not going to go down without a fight, and it seems like they could potentially be a bowl team in year 2. And Kansas football has not been a bowl team since 2008. With this next coach, it could be a little bit of a reach, but I do feel like there's a lot of potential there. And it's none other than current head coach for Carolina, Matt Rhule. Matt Rhule isn't necessarily having the most success on the NFL level. As of the recording of this video, Matt Rhule is 10-24 in the NFL, and the most games he's ever won in a season is still at 5, tied from 2020 to 2021. And it really seems like he's on the hot seat at Carolina, and I would be willing to bet by the end of the year, Matt Rhule is not going to be a head coach for the Carolina Panthers. Now, why does he potentially have a shot to be the head coach of the Nebraska Cornhuskers? In college, Matt Rhule had a lot of success building programs up. He did it at Temple, building them from a bad team in their conference to a 2-time 10-win team in 2015 and 2016. His first year at Baylor, they went 1-11 in 2017, and in his last season there in 2019, they made it to the Big 12 championship game and New Year's Six Bowl and went 11-3 overall. This is a guy that is used to building up college football programs from pretty much the very bottom of the barrel and bringing them all the way to spots where people weren't expecting them to be a couple years prior. On to this next potential candidate for Nebraska. He's a guy who's coached a lot of football, especially as a head coach. And that's none other than Gary Patterson, who's currently an analyst for the Texas Longhorns. Before his time at Texas, which really just started now in 2022, Gary Patterson was a head coach for a total of 22 seasons for TCU, in which he's won 181 games, nearly won 70% of the games he coached in, and went 11-6 in the bowl games he's had. Now, I understand that Gary Patterson is a little up there in age, and yes, his final few years at TCU weren't necessarily the best, as they didn't go to a bowl game in 2019. They could have in 2020, but they ultimately couldn't play in one because of, well, the pandemic and the issues with that. And his final year there, TCU struggled a lot and didn't reach some of the hype that people had for them, as he basically got fired midway through the season. Kind of technically left, but basically was forced to be let go of, and he went 3-5 in his final year at TCU. Now, I feel like this could be a good hire for Nebraska. He's a guy with a lot of experience. He can get players to programs, and more importantly, he is a good coach. With this final potential candidate that I'm going to be talking about in today's video, I'm going to be doing something a little different and look at someone who's never been a head coach. And that's none other than current defensive coordinator for Wisconsin, Jim Leonard. Now, Jim Leonard is a young defensive coordinator, and he's coached some great defenses in his time as the DC at Wisconsin, starting in 2017. And he's a guy who has a lot of potential, and he's going to be getting some job offers to be a head coach, even though some believe he may never leave Wisconsin, as that was the school that he played college for, and Wisconsin is his home state. He is a Badger from the day he grew up, and it's going to be very hard to leave Badger Nation. With a coach like Jim Leonard, you're going to get someone that is a good defensive coordinator, and someone that is a hard coach that really wants to bring the best out of his players and have a good culture in his room. Nebraska's defense is kind of struggling as of right now in 2022, and this could be someone that, if they hire him, he could really improve their defenses for years to come and bring it back to the defensive football that Nebraska fans are used to seeing on a year-in and year-in basis. Well, guys, if you made it this far in the video, drop something down in the comment section below. Who do you think is going to be the next head coach for Nebraska football? Obviously, I could not name every potential candidate in today's video, as that would make the video probably over 30 minutes long, and I just do not have time for that. There's a lot of people that could have been in this video that did not make it, and honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if anyone that I said in this video today isn't necessarily the head coach for Nebraska football in 2023, as a lot of things could happen. Nebraska could go with someone that's never been a head coach before. They could stay in the program with someone like Mark Whipple, or even the interim head coach right now, Mickey Joseph, or they could surprise everyone and put their money where their mouth is and make a slam dunk hire, putting a lot of money on the table. As Nebraska, they do have money, especially with those Big Ten deals, and they've already shown they're not afraid to spend money. They paid $7.5 million extra to buy out Scott Frost's contract, to fire him earlier than October 1st, when his buyout was going to be $7.5 million less if he was fired that day. Also, don't forget, before you head out, remember to smash that like button, turn on those post notifications, and subscribe if you haven't already. B. Kelly out.